Hey, yo, welcome back to Reddit The Wire. Well, as part of our daily stakes play, we're going to be looking at the Skidmore Stakes, which is a turf sprint for 2-year-olds on Friday's card. So let's take a look at it. Okay, the Skidmore is an ungraded stakes for 150K, and it's a turf sprint at 5.5 furlongs for 2-year-olds, and it's the 8th race on the Friday card for Saratoga. Number 1 is Untroubled, and we'll have to step it up pretty big to be competitive here. Did win the maiden last out, but didn't do it on turf. Really more than anything, would just need a really big step forward, and being on the rail, I don't know what kind of might be a bit of a disadvantage. I just don't think this one's good enough right now to factor, so I would pass. Number 2 is Ship Cadet, and I think this one's really interesting. In the Tyro, this one had to be used a couple of times to maintain position, and still had enough to close into No Name Mets at the finish. Now, No Name Mets had all the advantage of being on the front end and was able to just draw off, but tactically, Ship Cadet had the kind of the worst of it, and had to make a couple of moves in there. And I thought that was a really positive impression. And I like this horse in this race. And if he can stay up a little closer to the lead, may have a chance to get the jump. And if he's good enough, can overtake No Name Mets. But I like Ship Cadet in this spot. Number 3 is Sebastian Run. And this one's interesting to me. One wire-to-wire in the last start. And granted, didn't really run against a whole lot, but it was the way this one ran. Seemed to have plenty left in the tank, and it didn't look like it was a real challenge at all. So that move to turf was obviously the right one. And the concern I have a little bit is you do get Jamie Torres aboard, who's not the greatest turf rider. But if he can gun this one and get up amongst the leaders, that'll be just a question of whether he's good enough. And it might surprise. Probably under is more likely, but at 15-1, you're getting a nice price. And I think this one you're going to hear some more from. Number 4 is Seize the Gray. Hasn't gone on turf yet, but has speed. And as Wayne Lucas is fond of saying, you can't teach speed. So moving to turf, I think it's a way to get this one a race. I'm a little surprised that didn't run in the Saratoga Special or even the Hopeful coming up. That's kind of a little bit of a red flag to me, because we know Lucas loves to run in those races. Arrogate's not the greatest at turf size. He's 7%. But again, this one has speed, should be prominent, and, you never know. I mean, if it makes a big jump onto turf, could surprise at 8-1. Number 5 is Factor You and Me In, and this one didn't do any running at all against the better horses in the Tyro here, and I just think is overmatched, so I would pass. 5-0 Somewhere. Kenneth Spraggins I don't know a whole lot about as a trainer, but one thing you can say about this horse is look at those progressions. This horse is improving by leaps and bounds over the last 3 starts. Now, horses, when they make jumps like that, tend to hit the ground hard at some point. I'm not saying that's necessarily going to happen here, but it's something you have to keep in the back of your mind, because when you make that type of rapid improvement, there's only one way to go from there. Now, this one hasn't run on turf yet, and a lot of times when horses get to turf the first time, another jump is entirely possible. Munnings is a 14% with first turfers, so you're going to get a price here. And this is kind of a wild card horse. I mean, it's a little hard for me to back based upon the jumps being that rapid. But, this is one that maybe to think about at 20-1, you could do a lot worse and at least put them underneath in the exotics. Number 7 is No Name Mets, and this is the deserving favorite. George Weaver's barn is red hot. The best thing to note about this one is he thought enough to bring this one over to Royal Ascot, and despite being outpaced in the Norfolk Stakes against a pretty good field, and you see Elite Status, who's a real monster, came back to win next out. Came right back in the Tyro and didn't show any ill effects and won convincingly. So I think this is a special horse for sure, and definitely a logical win candidate, and one you certainly want to use. Billy the Greek, number 8, is trained by Sappy Joseph. He's having a really good Saratoga, which is unusual for him. He's 5 out of 8 in the money. Ken Ramsey, good outfit, always has pretty good stock. This one debuted with a pretty good win, and the most notable thing is that this one came from off the pace. Now, it was meant for turf in the first start and didn't get it, so we're not sure exactly how this horse runs on turf, but you'd have to assume if they meant him for that he'll probably run a better effort than we saw in the debut. And if that's the case, then you'd have to make this one a contender in here. Was logical to make a jump in the buyers, so that all looks pretty good. And at 8-1, I think you have to use this horse for sure, and you're getting a nice price in doing so. Number 9 is Fandom. It's a Wesley Ward in a turf sprint. Not much more needs to be said about that. You can see he thought enough of this one to send to Royal Ascot in the Coventry. And to be honest, after watching his debut, I really liked this horse at Royal Ascot. I was really excited to see this one watch, more so than American Rascal. And ran pretty well, was up on the lead in one of the groups, but just couldn't hold it. And that was a pretty good field. River Tiber is, by all accounts, a monster, and Army Ethos isn't bad either. And you see Bucanero Fuerte came back to win. So it was no disgrace whatsoever to not win the race. So with Wesley Ward, I fully expect this one will come back running. And at 5-1, you're getting a pretty good price. The outside post is a bit of a concern, given the other inside speed. But I think this one has the talent to factor in this race, and you sort of have to use. Number 10 is Go Auto Go. Steve Asmussen's been getting into these turf sprints more readily lately. Now, I'm not sure that this one's good enough. You can see hasn't been on turf yet. Bolta Oro is a pretty good 14% first-time turf sire, so you have that working for you. But the Bashford Manor was a bit of a disappointment, and you never like to see that with 2-year-olds where they regress after their first start. It does happen, and it's clearly happened here. So don't know if turf is going to wake this one up again or not. With Florent Giroux as the jockey, you know you're going to get an aggressive ride, and he's going to try to get this one up near the leaders. But the outside post is definitely a concern, and there's other speed in here that I like better. So I can kind of go either way with this horse. At 10-1, you're getting a decent price if you want to use, but I'm probably going to lean towards tossing. The also eligibles, we have Jimmy the Tooth, number 11. He's trained by Mike Maker, and this one's been pretty good so far. El Grande he's been kind of tussling with, and who's no slouch either, who's also eligible here. Again, the outside post, I think, would really be a challenge for a horse who wants to be up on the engine. And you do have to note that this one's been running at state breds as opposed to open company, but hasn't done badly, and you know, it's possible that this one could make another move forward. You're getting 12-1, it's a decent price. I might lean towards tossing, though, because of the post, but those connections, Michael Dubb, Mike Maker, Castellano, those are pretty good. So at the price, maybe this is one you want to think about if he draws in. Number 12 is El Grande O. Linda Rice, Jose Ortiz, they've just been lights out at this meet. And this one is definitely a horse who fits here, I think, for sure. The only thing you have to look at, of course, is the post. And this is another one who wants to be up near the lead. And I think it'd be a big-time challenge, particularly with the speed to the inside. You are getting 6-1. It's a decent price. And again, if this one does draw in, maybe one you want to think about. Little troubling that the buyers dropped in the third start when he had perhaps a little bit more competition than usual. But also note he was the chalk and did win. So those are all positives. One you want to think about. Again, the outside post is a little troubling to me, but I think this one's a fit here. And for the main track only, we have Antonio of Venice. If it does go to dirt, I guess this is one you want to think about. But I've never really been that impressed with this horse, to be honest. Been facing some fairly weak fields in the State Bred Company. And the fact that it's on dirt, maybe upgrade this one a little bit. But at 10-1, you get a decent price. And again, if it does go to dirt, all bets are off in this race. So then maybe this is one that you think about. So here's what our top 5 looks like for the Skidmore Stakes. Number 1, I'm going to go with Ship Cadet. I really liked his race in the Tyro. I thought he was the best race of that day. Despite the fact that No Name Mets won by 5.5, he had been used a couple of times to maintain position, and he still had plenty enough left for a good kick and a solid second. I think he rates off the leaders here, and if there is a pace duel, which is likely to happen, I think he'll be the big benefactor from it, and he should be right there, gets first jump on everybody else, and I think he's got a really good chance to take this one down, and you get a nice price at 4-1. Number 2 is Fandom. I really loved this horse's debut. I just thought he looked awesome, and there was no disgrace whatsoever not finishing better at Ascot. That was a tough field, and of the 2-year-old sprints, that was probably the toughest of the group. River Tiber was just a monster, so I think he gets kudos for that race, and I expect him to fully come back and fire. He's by Wesley Ward. 2-year-old sprints is what he does. So I look for Fandom to be very prominent early and has a very good chance of taking this one down. Number 3 is No Name Mets. Pretty much the same deal as Fandom. He looked awful good in the Tyro. No ill effects from Ascot. He's a perfectly logical horse to bet to win here, and he could very well do it. George Weaver's barn is awful hot, and this one has the talent. I'm just worried about a pace duel up front may sap some energy that he'll need to close it out. But he's definitely one of the ones that he should factor. Number 4, we're going to go with Billy the Greek. He's coming from off the pace. I think that's a good thing here. He should benefit from the hot pace up front. And I'm not sure he's good enough to win this race, but he'll definitely be picking up the pieces coming late. And you're getting a nice price at 8-1. He's a good one to use in your exotics. And then number 5, we're just going to throw the wild card out there, Sebastian Run at 15-1. I really liked his debut, and he looked like he had a lot more in the tank. He didn't have it wasn't as classy a field as some of these others have faced, but he looked like he's got some talent, and another move forward, second-time start. He's got a chance to factor in this race. He'll be up on the engine early. He's got a good post position, and like I said, I think he's got more in the tank, so that should keep him in the mix late. Not sure he's good enough to win this, but he'll have a puncher's chance. So that's the top 5 for the Skidmore. I think it's a highly competitive race, and these turf sprints usually are, and it should be a lot of fun to watch. And we're going to just roll the dice that we can get a horse benefiting from what's likely to be a pace duel up front. If you do like content like this, go on over to our website at rightatthewire.com. We've got full 2-year-old maiden analysis. We've got daily plays as well as full card analysis on the weekends. All available for Saratoga, so go on over there and take a look at it. If you do like what you see on the YouTube channel here, please like and subscribe. And we love the fact that we've had so many people come on board lately. We thank you for that. It does help to keep us going, and we appreciate the support. So that does it for today. We'll continue with our daily stakes plays throughout the meet at Saratoga. And this weekend we've got the Alabama, so I'll have something special for that as well. I'll be talking to you in the very near future. And until then, be well.